So, Callum McGregor, MMA Ontario, here with Ryan Couture out of Xtreme Couture in Las Vegas. Just curious, Ryan. Well, first I'd like to congratulate you on your 2 submission victories with Strikeforce. You're in a very aggressive style, both on the feet and on the ground, so it's really entertaining to watch. It's good to see. First, I'd like to hear your opinion on some fighters who just seem to, they lay on top of guys. They use the wrestling, they get on top, dominant, and they just seem to squeak out a win via decision. What's your opinion on that?
I think that style is effective, and it's proven to put wins on the board, but not necessarily to garner a lot of fans. And I don't necessarily think that's a conscious choice by those guys. I think sometimes in the heat of the moment, you go with what works, and you're in there first and foremost to get the win. And for me, that drive or that sort of translates into a sense of urgency to search for submissions all the time. But at some point that's probably going to come back to bite me and end up costing me a fight, so I'll probably have to learn a little bit more of that grinding style. But I just think it comes down to different styles for everybody, and you're going to go with what works and what's getting your hand raised at the end of the fight.
Yeah, for sure. You're like you were just saying, you're a very aggressive style. What are some matchups that you're looking for right now? Like did Strikeforce talk to you about a next fight coming up?
I think I'm still so new at this and still young in my career that I'm just going to keep taking those incremental steps up in competition, and as I keep passing the tests, they'll keep making them stiffer for each time out. So, I don't really have any names on my list that I'm looking to get in there with. I think I'm only 2 fights into my pro career, so I'm not in the position to be calling out any of the established guys yet. But as I work my way up, there's plenty of tough guys that are going to make for fun matchups once I get to that level.
Now, with the UFC Strikeforce merger, would you look to possibly be in the UFC in the future? Like, is there any aspiration to be there eventually, or?
I don't. I'm happy fighting with Strikeforce as long as there still is a Strikeforce. I think that's a great promotion, and they've treated me really well. Obviously, the UFC's kind of considered the pinnacle right now, and I feel that especially the lightweight division is probably the deepest division in the sport over there. So at some point it'd be great to test myself against those guys as well. But whether that's in a cross-promoted sort of super fight sort of setting, or whether I eventually end up in the UFC, or if the UFC someday swallows up Strikeforce and we all end up under that banner, then however it works is fine with me. I just want to keep getting better and keep winning fights.
Okay. Now, with your father leaving the sport, do you feel any extra added pressure carrying the name forward?
No, it's never really been about living up to the name or carrying on a legacy. For me, it's just something that I really enjoy doing, and it's turned out to be a good way for me to make a living as well, and have a lot of fun doing something I love. So I don't stress about that. I think what he's done speaks for itself, and hopefully by the time I walk away from the sport, I'll be able to say the same thing about my accomplishments.
Now, you were a wrestler first. You wrestled through high school and through college. What was it about jiu-jitsu? Like when you first started doing jiu-jitsu, what was it about jiu-jitsu that drew you? Because you have a really sleek style, and you've obviously really picked up on the sport really, really quick. So,
I think when I first started training, I was just getting back into shape. I kind of let myself slide during college. Didn't really stay active. So jiu-jitsu was a way for me to kind of get that itch that I still had to get on the mat and wrestle without really that same intensity in the training session. I mean, in wrestling, you're just killing yourself every workout, and I don't think my body could have handled that at that point, and that wasn't what I was looking for. I was just trying to have some fun and stay in shape, and jiu-jitsu provided an outlet where I could still get that same sort of competitive, on the mat, testing myself one-on-one feeling without that same, hardcore train till you puke sort of mentality that wrestling tends to bring with it. So I think that's initially what drew me to it, and then the more and more I got into it, the more I just felt that I kind of had an aptitude for it, and I was picking things up and starting to spot submissions and catch guys, and that just became a lot of fun for me, so I stuck with it.
Nice. Now, if you were to ever have a fight up in this neck of the woods, up in this neck of the woods being Toronto, Ontario, would you consider training at Xtreme Couture in Toronto for your actual training camp, or would you stay down in Vegas?
I think I'd probably stay in Vegas. Just, it's better to sleep in my own bed, and I've got a great team here, a great support structure, good coaches, good training partners. That's a fantastic facility and a great group of guys up there as well. So, I think for maybe the week or even 2 leading up to the fight, I'd be happy to call that home. But I just think it makes the most sense for me to sort of stay with what's consistent and what's been working and stay close to home.
Okay, and lastly, your father's fighting on Saturday night. How do you see that fight breaking down?
I think it just comes down to whether Dad's able to sort of measure his aggression and close the distance intelligently and make it an inside fight and a grappling match. I think that's the key to the fight for him. He's in as good a shape as I've ever seen and seems very focused and dialed in. He seems to feel that everything's coming together and he's peaking at the right time. So I think it's going to be a hell of a show, and I hope Lyoto's ready for him because the old man's definitely going to come and bring the fight to him. Machida tends to try and get guys chasing him and catch him, let him walk into something, trying to track him down. So that's what Dad's got to watch out for. And unfortunately, his style tends to be very aggressive. He wants to just march across the cage and grab a hold of somebody. So he'll have to sort of measure that aggression and be smart about it. But I think it's a good style matchup for him if he can do if he can stick to the game plan.
It's definitely a great final fight for him to have 55,000 fans, and he has a great fan following in Ontario. So to actually hear, you're going to hear Randy chanted throughout the Rogers Centre. So it's going to be an amazing night for him to call it quits. So
I can't wait. It's going to be an awesome show, top to bottom. I think there's a lot of great fights, and I'm just still trying to wrap my head around what 55,000 people is going to be like at a fight.
Yeah, it's going to be intense. You know what? Just quickly, one more thing. Mark Hominick, Jose Aldo.
I think that's going to be a fantastic fight. I'll be rooting for Mark. He's a great guy. I've had the privilege of training with him a couple of times, and he was always awesome to have around the gym. And I think he's got a style that could give Jose trouble. He's definitely the best striker that Aldo's faced in a long time, if not ever. So I'm expecting a barn burner of a fight and pulling for Mark. Obviously, Aldo's looked near unstoppable his last several fights. So Mark's got his work cut out for him, but I think he's more than capable of pulling it off.
Perfect. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Ryan, for your time, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
All right. Bye now.
Take care.